Hi, welcome to We Are Human, where we explore what keeps us human in a technology saturated world. In this episode, we are going to dive into some things that Andrea is going to tell us all about right now. Oh, that's Andrea. I'm Susan.
Hello. So this episode, what we thought would be interesting is that we're gonna have what we call solo episodes where Susan and I are riffing and sharing some of our experiences in this technology-driven world,
Oh,
trying to infuse human and keep the human at the center. And then we're gonna have ones that we interview experts. So today is one of the solo episodes. And what we wanted to do was we've been in the tech space for a very long time. And we always take a human centered approach to everything that we do. And in that, we have come up with 8 basic frameworks or principles that we try to keep at the heart of everything we do because we know that they typically do the best possible job of keeping the human at the forefront. Now, here is our giant, unapologetic, exposed truth. And that is while we 100% believe that these principles do make it better, also know that they are ripe with holes and things that we just don't have it right yet. We oftentimes know that we get it wrong when it comes to putting the human first. It's why we made this podcast, was to try to fill those holes. But we thought it would be really important for us to share at least what we know so far and then be totally open and willing to hear where we might still have and share with you guys where we might still have holes, and where we might just kind of think, hey, this is the best we know so far, but we know we're wrong.
yeah.
So you guys kind of know our bias and you know where we're coming from.
I will add in there before you get into it that a lot of what we're going to talk about today and on the next several solo episodes without guests come from a lot of research and work on Andrea's part. And so I think she's being a little too humble and that we don't have it all figured out, which is so true. But also, we have a lot of it figured out. And in our space and within our business, we are the only ones that I know of that actually think and talk about this and actually put things into practice. So if you're like, I just am trying to figure out how to do this, how do I leverage technology, but without losing the human connection part of it, and or how do I use technology to connect with my humans more? You're in the right spot because I really don't hear anyone else talking about this.
Very true.
Andrea has created so many amazing frameworks over the years, and that's what we're going to be diving into. So continue.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, I think we should just dive right in to the first
Yeah.
principle or the first one. The first one is something that we call journey crafting. So I'll kind of do this is what we know so far, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about what that means and what we've seen. So the first principle of journey crafting is that we know that when we map the human experience that we want, that we intend for our humans, and we do that not thinking about the technology first, but only thinking about the human and their experience and their journey first. So normally we'll like literally pull up Miro or even whiteboard or something like that, where we're just thinking about the human and their journey first. Then you introduce the technology and all the constraints. We know that that is an absolute must in order for the human to feel it and to actually be considered. So
Yeah.
many times is like, technology has constraints. That's just the nature of technology. And we see so many times people come to us and they've created these systems that are just like they pull up a piece of software and they start programming in all of the things that they want to do. And they don't even realize that the technology they're using is constraining their ability to serve the human. And they just get into the mindset of trying to get the tech to work instead of, nope, tech gets to come second, the human comes first, and let's map the journey sans technology first. Okay, Susan, yeah, what are your thoughts and what are
Well,
your thoughts on that?
yeah, and not only that, like how many times have we had people come to us, Andrea, where they really didn't put much thought into the
No.
experience at all. They put a ton of thought into their offer,
Mhm,
right? They're like,
mhm,
I gotta create the most amazing offer because I gotta,
mhm.
eh, yes, I gotta go sell this to make money. But also a lot of people that come to us, they are in it for more than that. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I need to help people. So I need them to actually see the value and they need to buy it so I can help them. So there's a lot of emphasis in our industry of you got to get like the offer. So a lot of time goes there. But then naturally in that it's like, okay, well, I know what I'm giving them, but they don't know how. They don't
Yeah.
and let me back up a little bit because the how is, yes, put it into a membership area or a course place, and that's the how, and we give them the link, and then they get in, but there's not a lot of thought that goes into that experience. And so we have people
Mhm.
that come to us all the time where we actually do, like, force them to slow down, "Wait a minute, let's map this out," and
Mhm.
hands down, every single person,
Mm.
they're like, "This was amazing, like, I've never gone into it in this depth before." Andrea and I know what we know now, and we look at each other, and I'm thinking, like, "How did they not go to this depth? Like, how did you possibly create what you did without going to this depth?" Because
Yeah.
in our mind, it's hard to do that, but that's we know that that's what people are out there doing,
Yeah.
and we know that it's just because there's not a lot of tools or education around how to even do that.
Yeah. And I have to make mention, the one piece of education that is out there around delivery or fulfillment is create an outline. Have all your content and create an outline.
At least
That
have
in
that.
and of itself yeah, that in of itself is not bad for you to organize your thoughts, right? That's great for you, the creator of the journey, to organize your thoughts, but an outline is a highly linear non-emotional aspect. It in no way says, "How is my person feeling right now? How are they experiencing this? What do they need at this moment? Where is it hard? Where is it not hard?" Right? Like, asking the questions from a journey standpoint and a like progression standpoint is very different than you just organizing your thoughts into an outline. And so again, like, that mapping is so important.
Yeah, I just had the thought, Andrea, that it's like I think where we do see people put a lot of effort into the experience of it is when they're writing a book, assuming they're not using AI
Yeah.
to write the book.
Yeah.
There's like, how long does it take people to write books? Like, we know of someone right now writing a book, and there are actually 2 people that we know of in the last couple of years where they
Yeah.
were, like, deep into writing their book, and they're like, "This isn't right," and they scrapped the
Yeah.
whole thing and started over because they are taking that time to think through, like, "Okay, but what are they gonna need next? Okay, if
Yeah.
I tell them this thing, what's the hole that I'm gonna have to talk about in the next chapter?" And
Yes.
they are creating this incredible experience where it's, like, guiding them from one
Yes.
piece of information to the next piece, and they put
Yes.
so much time and effort into it. But
Yes.
then when it comes to something, for example, like a digital course, they're like, "Now, here's all the videos I've recorded in the
Yeah.
past. We're just gonna, like, throw them in some sort of order, and we're gonna sell it and give you
Yeah.
access." Meanwhile, they're like their customers are spending, like, 3, 5, 10 times the amount of money
Yeah.
that they would be spending on your book.
Yeah. Isn't that
So,
isn't
yeah.
that interesting, Susan? I think you hit it the nail on the head around this whole concept of connecting with humans. It is, what role do I think I'm playing with them right now? Am I just vomiting content, right? And good luck, which is going to bring us to our next principle. Or is my role as a guide, whatever shape that takes, asynchronous, synchronous, remote, direct, but like, my job when I am creating a digital expert based business is to be a guide in some way, shape, or form. And I do think that's such a critical difference. You hit the
Yeah.
nail on the head. Yeah.
The other thought I just had, and we can move on because I know we got like 7 others to cover. This one actually, like, it is the foundation. If you don't have this piece, like, none of the rest of them matters. The other thing I thought about is, like, because we're bringing you our ways that we keep, like, human connection, because human connection leads to transformation, which leads to satisfies customers, which it leads to a better world, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole reason we're here today and forever on this podcast.
Yeah.
And so the book example, for example, that's not necessarily a digital experience. I think
Mhm.
most people aren't entering the project of writing a book thinking this is only going to be in digital print only, unless you
Mhm.
literally are like, I'm just going to make it an ebook. But in that case, I don't think as much time and care goes into it as
Mhm.
someone who is writing it for the intention of like,
Mhm.
this is going to be printed. This is going to be a tangible thing that is like immortalized in the world in history, like, it will be here forever, whether it's in a landfill or not. It's, like, in the world, you know?
Yeah.
And so time and effort goes into it, and I was also thinking, like, okay, where else do we see a lot of time and intention going into an experience in this industry? It's in live events, live
Yes.
in-person
Yeah.
events. So
Yes.
we're gathering together, we're in person, we come from the funnel hacking live world with ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson, and we've been to a lot of those conferences, and you can't even be described as a conference. Like they're an event, you know?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
amazing, and we've seen behind the scenes. Russell's talked about it of like how much money and time and intentionality goes into that event and the experience.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, we know that people are willing to do that for things that are not digital.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
how do we do those same things in the digital world? Because just because it's digital doesn't give us a free pass to just phone it in and not give it our best effort.
Well said. Yeah. Well said. Yep. Because it is felt on the other end. Yeah. Intention is yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Framework number 2. And this one is when we started to identify this one, we got a lot of pushback actually. And this is what we call compassionate reach. And so what this one is that the moment that we can stop building for ourselves and start building for the 98% of people who are not like us, and typically it means like if you're building an expert business and you are building some kind of journey, you probably are in the upper percentile of the population in terms of your achievement orientation, maybe your education, your background, your intelligence, your ability to figure it out, your resistance, right? uh, and especially in the area that you are guiding. So we oftentimes are building journeys for people who are similar to us, which really will only serve about 1-2% of the population if you look at normal distribution, right?
Mhm.
But if you just allow yourself to build for like into the people who are not like you, into the average person who doesn't have your same capacity in this area, and you have compassion for that, it does require you being willing to hear that your beautiful design is not right. But when you do that and you lean into that compassionate part and you say, hey, you know what? They need an extra step here. They need an extra thing here to help them. They aren't getting this. Like, as brilliant as you think you are, they're not getting it. So let's give them something else to help them give more structure, give more support, give more nurture. When you're willing to do that, people excel. They feel heard, they feel seen, and they actually start doing the thing. And we have data upon data to show this. So this one we feel really comfortable and confident on. Plus it just makes good business sense because you have a bigger market you can reach into. So yeah.
Yeah, this is like the signs that this may be an issue that is showing its face in whatever project you're currently working on or business is if you have about that 1 to 2% of people who they're like, "Oh, I could just find more of them. If I could
Mhm.
just find more people like Sally who just she bought it, she got in, she got through the whole thing, she wasn't troubled, didn't hear a word from her, like she just did everything and if there was a question, she didn't ask it, she just figured it out herself." Like
Mm.
those are the 1 to 2% high achievers because if you do they are like they're they are so, self-sufficient in whatever it is that they're learning that if there is a hole or you didn't explain something very clearly, they will go be resourceful and go figure it
Mhm.
out, or they connect dots and pieces or whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, that's the 1 to 2% of high achievers, and then, like Andrea said, what about all the rest of the people, which are your customer base? You are not selling to only high achievers. It's
Right.
impossible statistically that you are only selling to that 1 to 2%, and so
Right.
if you have, like, 1 to 2% of your people are like that, and you're like, "What about the rest of them?" Even if it's, like, 10% of your people are like that, and the other 90 are like, they're just, like they just are asking me questions all the time. They're going through it slower. It's like that's when you have there's a sign there that you've designed it for high achievers only.
Yeah. Now, I'm gonna get a little geeky on the human side on this because I think part of this podcast we're gonna talk a lot about ego because I think ego is what it's a clever little piece of gadgetry in our human experience that
Yep.
impacts a lot. And I think the reason why people connect with that one person who's going through your program, right, is because it's so validating. It's
Mhm.
so validating. It's like, I can teach it. This person is doing it. I don't have to change. I know what I'm doing. I'm brilliant because they can get it, you know? And I think it's like when people start to say, like, I don't get it, I don't understand, you have to break it down. This perfectly constructed knowledge that I have, right, is being threatened that I don't actually know how to communicate it. So then I'm like, do I know it? Can I teach it? You know what I mean? Like, it is hugely ego threatening. When instead, if you just like, okay, ego aside for a second, everybody's brain thinks differently. Yes, you are brilliant in the way you've constructed it, but if you want your knowledge, which is not really yours, it's divinely given to you. But if you really want people to access it, then you have to be willing to see how other people see your knowledge and reshape it, recraft it, reframe it, break it down to make it accessible to them. And that is not easy from an ego standpoint because we're so attached to the way we know things. But it really, in order to, I think, penetrate into that percentage of people who are able to access it more, you have to let go of your perfectly crafted structure of the world and be willing to like look at your beautiful baby and kind of rip it apart a little bit to make it more accessible and present it a different way to people.
Yeah,
That's
and it's not always "I need to improve my lead quality. I need better customers." Like,
Mhm.
I
No.
hate to break it to you, but sometimes that is the problem. But when you have solved that problem and you're like, "I'm getting buyers and I'm getting, all of that. I'm getting people that say that this is their problem and they
Yeah.
want the solution,"
Yeah.
then without like completely restructuring your offer and the problem you solve, getting higher quality customers is not is not usually the case.
Yeah.
We just need to adapt the delivery.
Yeah, so true. One other thing too on here though, Susan, is like I think a lot of times people who might be listening to this now might be like, well, that's just not for me, right? Like I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to put up with that hassle. I don't give that way. I don't nurture that way. I don't want to be that kind of guide. We will put a caveat in here and we'll probably talk about it later on the podcast. Please know that this does not mean you have to always be present and available and directly accessible to anybody who you are guiding. That is not at all what we believe. There is plenty of methods to not do that, but you absolutely still have to have the compassion in order to recraft. That part is the critical part.
Yeah. Well, and in planning for this episode, we brought that up like as we were planning and we were talking to each other about it of like, okay, this like what is the message we got? Everyone who listens to this episode today, what is the message that we need to get across? There's a
Okay.
few of them, but one of them is that the technology, like we're not trying to have human connection and experiences in spite of the technology, it is
Mhm.
with the technology.
Yes.
We can use technology, and in our industry when we are working with course creators and that type, exactly as Andrea said, this isn't, you don't have to be involved. It's like, how do I use technology to make it so that I can remove myself from it a little bit more, from the business or whatever it is, a little bit more, without making the people experiencing it feel like they've been left and there's no more connection and there's not a human involved. And so this is what we've been using and practicing and developing over the years is like,
Mhm.
how do we use the technology to actually create more connection while removing the human's time. Like as entrepreneurs, we all want our time back to be able to go work on more things or to serve others in a deeper way or to go on vacations or be with our family. And it's not a get more involved to create more human connection. It's actually the opposite. You just need to leverage technology in the way that you should.
Amen. Yes. Okay. Number three. This one's the fun one. This is what we call the celebration architecture. So humans need to have their struggle acknowledged and they need to have their victories witnessed. I don't care what anybody tells you in terms of like, I don't like the spotlight or I don't like all that attention or I can figure it out on my own. Lies. First of all, it might look different and feel different for every human, but the base core human need is that we want to be seen and we want to be seen in our struggles and or at least in some way, and we want to be seen in our celebrations and our wins. It is so core to who we are as humans because we are emotional creatures and these things are important. And so having the ability that when you're mapping that journey to identify the emotional lows and highs and make sure that you insert support for the lows and celebration for the highs is so critical. Susan has this amazing thing that she does with emails and texts, which you can talk about here in a second, Susan, of like being able to meet that person in those moments and how important that is in the journey.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and that is what going toward what I was just saying of like technology actually can help you because You are just one person in whatever it is you're doing. You might have a team, but you are still one person. And each team member on your team is just one person, and they
Mhm.
cannot be everywhere all at once, serving everybody to the same level of satisfaction. And so you have to be able to use technology, and so, yeah, the system that Andrew is referring to, it's a way to be able to have touch points in communication, like finding those low moments of like, I know that people are going to get stuck here and they're not going to want to do this, but we better make sure we're communicating why it's important to be doing it. And we're going to remind them, like, look, you just got to get through this lesson, or communicate to them like why it's actually fun and it's not daunting. Like there's been emails that we've written for, hey, so we know that the lesson is called this, but here's why you should like not let that be daunting to you. You know, we actually just did that for a client a couple weeks ago. The lesson sounds like this big existential like question that they're gonna have to answer. And it's like, actually, you just have to like make a quick choice. It's gonna take you like 5 minutes. Just get in there and do it.
Yes, yes.
And so it's things like that. And I'm gonna just briefly mention it here right now. But we're working on an app too that brings us to another level of like actually being able to be inside your customer's head in a way, figuratively,
Mhm.
and know even more about like where are the lows, what are the highs. And so yeah, definitely the celebration part of it is always motivating. I know we'll probably do an episode in the future because this is a very hot topic right now of like how do you gamify things
Oh,
without it being
yeah,
gimmicky or a turn off to people? And there is a right way and there is a wrong way. And so actually we'll probably dive into that when we dive deep into this framework specifically. Um, but yeah, everyone likes to have recognition. Like
yeah.
that's everyone from babies to 100-year-olds, like everyone likes recognition for work that they've done. So there's
Especially
yeah,
work that's meaningful to them.
yes,
Like,
yeah.
if you are reflecting back to them an intrinsically motivated, meaningful part of their journey, there's no better feeling of being seen. Like, it's so critical. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Number 4. Okay. This one, I'm going to try not to make this one too geeky, but this is what we call intentional analytics. So I come from the world of big SaaS, right? And I mean, the biggest of the big Google, Amazon, Microsoft, like all of the big ones. And they are heavily reliant upon data to understand what the customer is doing and making decisions and creating products and all kinds of services and support based on this like massive data pool that's coming in. And I will tell you that when you measure everything, you know less and less. And while analytics can absolutely help you, and I have been in so many boardrooms where we're having debates about the role of analytics and what it can do and what you can actually understand, what we have found in our corner of the world that we know so far is that instead of just mass understanding of data and collecting it, if you measure deviations, so you see the data, which are deviations from the intentional path that you actually created for the humans, then that actually tells you everything about what the human actually needs. There's this really famous story or really famous image where in some parts of the world, how do you know how and where you should put a sidewalk? So what they do, there's a practice. I think it's in Germany or Netherlands. I always get it confused, but they have this practice where they'll just lay sod, right? There's a huge field and they'll just lay sod. And then they'll wait to see where the paths are walked through. And then that's what tells you where the humans go. Okay. And you might be thinking that's brilliant because I'm actually giving people what they need. And in that particular case, because it's recreational and there's no like people can go wherever they want to go, it is a brilliant design. But when we're actually creating designs where we know like this is an education experience and you as an expert know how to get somebody from A to B in your expertise, that kind of method is the worst possible method. Instead, if you build a journey and it's a clear sidewalk, so you lay the sidewalk and then you lay sod all around the sidewalk and then you see deviations, now you can say, oh, okay, I know as the expert that they have to go from A to B on this sidewalk. But when I'm seeing that deviation, that's where I get to learn why are they stepping off the path? Is it because my stuff's too hard? Is it because maybe they see something over there that's important? Like I now can ask way more intelligent questions to either get them back onto the path or create a little side journey that helps them in their learning journey. And that's way more meaningful than just, where do they go? It's like, Susan, you're a mom. And so you might know this, but I know like in some schools, they have those experiments where it's like free learning, where the kid can just choose
Hmm.
their own adventure and there's like no structure.
Yeah.
And what we have found time and time again, what the research shows is that that does not work. It does not help a kid learn. It does not help a kid progress. Especially, I mean, maybe in creative ventures, but in like hard skills where, again, you're an expert and you're going from A to B, it doesn't help the kid progress. Where instead, like high structure, high support, that is the way to help them progress. But
Mhm.
yeah, go ahead. I've been talking forever.
No, that's absolutely true. And I mean, we've done that with some of our own clients that have come to us. Of it is like a, it's not a, hey, if they're not following the path you designed, then you have to adapt your path to what they're doing, because again, you are the expert.
Mhm,
You know, to a degree, there might be instances where you do need, oh, I forgot that they would need that thing, so let's add that in because they went off and looked for it on their own. Or, hey, they're actually like jumping ahead. Actually, they do need that first before they go to the thing I thought they would need next. There are things like that. But if you're like, no, they like it, this is the order in which they have to learn it, and they're
mhm,
still going off the path. Like we've done that. We've done like side quests of like, well, they got really curious about this one thing, even though we really need them to go to the next step that we have laid out for them. But they got really curious for this one thing. So let's just let them go explore that for a minute. And then we get them back on the right path, on the path to continue. And it's so fun being able to be aware, because you did that journey crafting step that we talked about as number one, to be aware of like where those might pop up, and even in the experience of after they're walking the path and you're seeing the trends and what are they doing, being able to modify or add to the experience. And the only way that you can do that is if you don't let technology dictate what is possible for you to
mhm,
do. And
mhm.
that is where I think we're going to harp on that one a lot on this podcast as it comes up, because yes, we need human connection and we need to be using technology, but we cannot let technology be the rails to the what the experience needs to be if it doesn't allow us to build what the experience needs to be. Like the experience has to come first, technology comes second.
Amen. Yes, yes. You make technology bend to your will, not the other way around.
And
Yeah.
so back to the analytics part of that. So the framework is like you need to be able to collect that data, and you need to know, like Andrea is so good at this, which data is actually meaningful to know that, like to know if we need to rearrange or build new side quests.
Mhm.
It's funny, the when you were talking about it, of like if you measure everything, nothing is actually that helpful. It's kind of like that, if you prioritize everything, nothing's prioritized,
Yes,
and it's to just keep that in mind. Like you don't need to measure everything, because one, that's really overwhelming and it's a lot of work to measure everything. You just
yes,
need key things
yes,
that are going to give you that information. And
yes.
again, we're going to go deep on all of these topics in future episodes.
Totally, because I could hear people in the audience, especially
What
the
do I
super
measure?
data-oriented, like, attribution people, right?
Yep.
They're like, "No, like, there's such thing as backwards engineering from analytics," and I totally hear you, and I get it, but there's a time and a place for that, and it is not an intentional journey crafting. The number 5, this one too, a lot of people, this is probably one of the biggest lifts that we get from a human to human standpoint, and that is progressive empowerment. And so what this means is that when you give people too much freedom too soon, when they're trying to learn something or build a skill or change a behavior, it is incredibly anxiety provoking because they already feel a low, what we call self efficacy, a low sense of confidence in what they are able to do. And so if it's like a kid, think of a kid, right? If like a kid doesn't know how to tie their shoe and you pretty much put a shoe in front of them and say, good luck,
There
right?
you go.
It's like, right? I mean, we are no different as adults. And so you cannot give too much freedom too soon or it creates anxiety. On the contrary, though, if you give too little freedom for too long, then it creates boredom. So this art is always in trying to read where the human is at on that spectrum of anxiety and boredom and keep them right there, what's called in flow, right? Keep them in between those two zones. And that is the most human honoring thing you can do when you are trying to guide someone is just try to always be conscious of like the anxiety spike or the boredom fall and design accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a
Uh,
great one.
one of our people that we often reference, which is worth a shout out, is Amy Jo Kim. She has a book called Game Thinking. We highly recommend it. It is incredible if you really want to learn about this more and how the best game design applied to products, aka your expert service or product, can do wonders in terms of helping with progressive empowerment.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's such a good book. We
Yeah.
put it up there with like our top foundational books that you must read if you're going to be in this game and you're taking if you are wanting to improve the experience that your customers are having. Um yeah, it's game principles. Who knew?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Number 6. Okay, and this is what we call context aware. This one is there's different types of experiences that you can create. And what works in one experience will not work in another. And the types of experiences that are out there are we reference Joseph Pine, who created the experience economy book. They basically have four types of experiences that you could create. There's education, there's entertainment, there's escape, and there is oh my gosh, it'll come to me in a second. But the four types of experiences need to be designed very different. But the ones that we are talking about when we're talking about expert-based businesses are education experiences. And so these are very different than the other types of experiences. And to know what kind of experience you're creating is critical in order to honor the human experience, in order to honor what's the goal of that experience and to design accordingly. And so knowing the type of experience that you're building is critical when it comes to a human being seen and actually ultimately enjoying it and engaging.
Entertainment, education, escapist, aesthetic.
Oh, aesthetic, of course, yeah. So if I go to, like, an art museum, right, that is an aesthetic experience, versus, like, I go to a movie, that's entertainment. Education is our expert-based business, and escapism is more like if I go to Disney World. Those are great escapism type of experiences. Okay, framework number 7. This is the deviation wisdom is what we call it. So this kinda goes, hand in hand with the compassion part, but this is every time the user, and I'm doing a big air quote, "does it wrong," they are teaching you something about what right should have been. And so it is really important to look at not a customer saying they're lazy, they don't know what they're doing, they're not engaging, dismiss, 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 dismiss. And instead, looking at that experience of that person and saying, is there anything I can learn in how they're thinking about it or what they're doing or how they're approaching it that would benefit not just them, but probably a lot of other students in order to make it more accessible and make it something that they can actually step into. And again, I think this goes hand in hand with the compassion piece because I think you have to have compassion in order to open up to this because it is hugely ego threatening. um,
Yeah, that one's it's a hard one. It kinda goes back to what you were saying earlier, like, a little bit of an ego check sometimes if we have to humble ourselves and be willing to get curious, learn about things that will probably point out to you, um, some fallacies maybe, or just some incorrect assumptions about like I thought that they would want this way
mhm,
and that they would do it this way, but
mhm,
they're not.
mhm,
And I think that also goes to say that that doesn't mean you have to like adjust for that one or
mhm,
a few people, right? But it's about getting curious and seeing, well, is there something that I could do? And is
mhm.
there maybe more people like, oh, yeah, of course you're doing that because this other button that I thought was working is not actually linked properly, you know?
Yeah.
You will discover things that you thought were so and they aren't so.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Yep. And it's just being willing to like take 2 seconds, right? And be like, oh, this is annoying. Why don't you get it? But then like, okay, let me just be curious. Let me learn. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and everybody thinks about things differently, right?
Yeah.
And like Andrea and I are very different thinkers. And sometimes it is like just can you just walk me through how you're thinking about that? Like because that's not at all how I'm thinking about it. And we'll have those conversations a lot. And I can't wait for the episodes where we get to dive into some of those for lack of a better phrase right now, personality assessments. So much more than that. But I can't wait to dive it. We have this one person that we are totally gonna have on as a guest. He
Yes.
is amazing. We're gonna invite him on, but it just really points out of like the differences in how people think. And it's like, not only did you maybe design it for the 1 to 2% high achievers, but you probably also designed it for the way that people like that to how you think about it and how you
Yes.
and that's like only a quarter of the population, if that, you know, of who thinks about it that way. So
Yeah.
there's just so much here. Are you
Ugh.
guys excited to like keep
Yes.
diving into this stuff? It's gonna be
Yes.
amazing. All right, do
Okay.
we have one more? We have one more.
We're coming into the last one, and this really is the, no kidding, let's ground it in reality. All of this is great in theory and principles, right? But, like, how do we actually just ground truth all this stuff? And that's what we call continuous human experimentation. And what that is that we will put our best human-centered design foot forward every time with the principles that we shared with you so far, but then we absolutely know that it will not be perfect. We are going to make mistakes. They won't do what we expect them to do. And that our job is to continue to run small little experiments when we get those signals back to teach us and to continue to improve so that human experience continues to improve and to come at it from not just grace for the process, but grace for yourself. Like, no matter how educated you are, how smart you are, how knowledgeable you are in your product, you are going to not get it 100% right. And so just be humble enough and treat it like an experiment, not like you failed, but a continuous experiment for improvement in order to better see your humans and better serve your humans and deliver a better product that you feel really good about. And what we like to say is that second sale that they continue to buy and keep coming back for. But experimentation and running experiments on a regular basis. We usually run experiments every 2 weeks to maybe a month period with all of our clients on the second sale. And we're always in experiment mode trying to get better. And it's a constant part of the culture. And it's really important, I think, to honor both you as a human and the humans you serve.
So what our plan is now is we will go deep into each one of these topics in future episodes. We are gonna be mixing in some guest interviews because it'd be really great if we can line up people that are specific to each of these. So it's like
Yeah.
we dive deep into journey crafting and then we go talk to some people about that a little bit. We'll
Yeah.
see what we can do about lining up people. If you have suggestions, if you're like, oh, you guys should totally have this person on and just dive into all things human and tech,
Yes. Oh,
let
tell
us
us.
know. You can
Yeah.
reach out to us. We'll put the way to contact us
Yeah.
along with wherever you're listening or watching this.
And if you're
And
one of those humans, tell it.
yeah,
Like,
if
we
you're
would
one of
love to interview you. Yeah. Teach us. Teach us where we're missing and the holes and the gaps. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and yeah, and we're just gonna keep going on this journey. We're gonna keep talking about the things that here's what we know works. We are doing this every day in our own lives, in our own businesses, in our clients. We're running these things on a daily basis. So we have like what's working and what's working for us and them and their types of businesses. And here's what's working for this business, but didn't quite work for this other business. And we're not going to bring a ton of business stuff to this podcast, but if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I want to know how to make technology work to my advantage and also still be able to have a human life and connection with people, then you're probably in some sort of business or entrepreneurship spot.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're just gonna keep bringing that to you. With that said, we will start that in our next episode. I think we'll dive deep into journey crafting, I think is what it will be.
Yeah.
Um, and we'll go from there. Anything else you want to add, Andrea?
No, and then let's go ahead and close it out. And it's just been such a journey and such a pleasure to dive into these. And we look forward to continuing to dive into it with everybody who's listening.
Yep. Feel free to subscribe, to share, to leave a review to help people find this more and stay human and stay connected.
Cool.